we used to go to Cramo's drugstore in New York, me, Gene Hackman, and Dustin Hoffman, and we'd meet once a week and talk for like 25 minutes to half an hour. If we mentioned Brando's name once, we mentioned it 50 times. So he was kind of like our hero, our godfather. You know, he was really a very unique guy. So, we kind of looked up to him and so forth and so on.
The views and opinions expressed by the participants on this show are not necessarily those of Stewart Information Services Corporation, Stewart Title, or Stewart Insurance. Before you make any investment, you should seek the advice of your investment advisor or attorney.
Whether you're a real estate broker, realtor, homeowner, buyer, or seller, everything matters when it comes to real estate. This is Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Stewart Title's Bill Knapik and guests open the door to what really matters in owning, buying, and selling real estate. And now, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title, brought to you by Stewart Insurance. Here to inform, entertain, and inspire, Bill Knapik.
Welcome to the show, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. I'm your host, Bill Knapik, and thank you for joining us on another radio adventure on Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. If you're just joining us or a regular listener, you may know that each show we try to make a little bit special, as we usually talk to real estate professionals, and within the real estate profession, we have mortgage people, realtors, home stagers, all sorts of professions that relate to real estate. Every once in a while, we go outside of the real estate profession to bring forth an interesting individual, entertaining, informative, and today we have a special guest that fills that bill in a major way. In fact, this is the first time on our show that we have had a real live movie star. In fact, a movie legend is on our show today. This actor has been in shows like The Godfather 1 and 2, Sling Blade, Apocalypse Now, The Natural, True Grit, To Kill a Mockingbird, all sorts of shows, and oh yeah, Lonesome Dove. You may have already guessed that our actor friend today is Robert Duvall, a screen legend both in the movies and on TV. So we're glad you joined us on this special show, and we are going to talk to Mr. Duvall right now. And here he is, writer, producer, director, and one of the greatest actors of all time, Robert Duvall.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Well, we are so, you have been our most famous guest that we've ever had on this show, and thank you so much, and certainly thanks to our mutual friend Danny Davis for making this possible.
Yeah, Danny Davis, yeah, he's got 9 lives, that guy.
he really does. There's no doubt about that. And you are distinctive in so many ways, and when I found out that you're going to be on the show, every night it's been a Robert Duvall marathon, so I'm watching something every night. So.
Okay. Whatever. Some good and some bad. I made some lemons, but I've been in some good ones too, I think.
The range of your work in terms of the type of roles and then the decades that you have been in the acting world, give us an idea of some of the things that are most memorable to you in this year.
Well, some of them more memorable, some of my favorites as well, I guess one of my favorites of all time is Lonesome Dove and The Godfather. And then with Horton Foote and when I played the country singer in that. Also, one of my favorite parts was when I played a Cuban barber in Wrestling Ernest Hemingway with Richard Harris. I worked on that Cuban accent for a long time. That's one of my favorite. And also, one of my favorite parts and the most difficult was when I played Joseph Stalin. And, we filmed it right in the Kremlin in the early 90s.
Wow.
That was very, very memorable and very, very great part to play. He was such an infamous guy, I've always tried to be versatile, but then I've come up on things that they offered. I said, I don't think I can do that because I don't know how to approach it to make it valid, So, but I've always tried to be versatile and do things that are varied. Interesting challenges.
The range of characters that you have played, as I've been refreshing, watching some movies I've seen a long time ago, the range of acting and the different kind of characters, and to do so well with each and every one of them. As an actor, what are the things that your systems or whatever you're doing to be able to be consistently awesome in everything?
Well, you have to go from yourself. You know, you don't become something else. You find those aspects of your own personality and individuality that fit whatever you're trying to get. So, you know, it's like you got to really know yourself, because you only have one set of emotions, one psyche, one mind, and whatever, one temperament. So you just got to know how to exploit that in a legitimate way and use it to your advantage within whatever you're asking yourself to do, you know. For instance, when I did Apocalypse Now, I had a part that may have been offered to others. I don't know. I told Francis Coppola, I said, I'll only ask you once to let me to do it. I wrote him a letter, and he gave me the part. And when I got there, the part was way overwritten. It was called Colonel Carnage. And it was a cowboy hat and this and that. And I said, this is way off. So it was a guy named Dick White who had been in Vietnam. And we talked, and after about 20 minutes, I kind of knew what to do. He very much informed me on what the air cavalry was, as opposed to, you know, in the 1800s, it was the horse cavalry, then the tank cavalry, and then in Vietnam it was the air cavalry with helicopters. And Fort Hood has a museum to these guys that wore these kind of hats with cross sabers. They wore spurs, and they had their own kind of collective identity. And I went from there to form the. And Coppola's the kind of guy that always lets you be creative and try things. It was an interesting challenge for me, you know. But it's been a long time since we've done that, 35 or 40. And his final edit was about a year ago. After all these many years, Coppola is still working on the edit. Yeah.
Well, by the way, there are so many things about that scene, and one of them is you are in super shape. A lot of that, you have your shirt off, the hat, and what's interesting is the way you're talking to Lance, the surfer, and I just watched this last week, and that's the reason I reached out to Danny Davis, because I said, man, I saw Robert in the Apocalypse Now, Lieutenant Colonel Kilgore. Is there any way we can get him on the show? But the way you played that character as the bombs are going off and all the action, and yet you're focused and in command, and you're talking surfing.
Right, exactly. Well, you know, I hear that there was the Six-Day War over in Israel. When the war was over, they couldn't find the head general or colonel, whatever he was. He was snorkeling. So these guys, you know, and these air cavalry guys were the same way. You know, they would do crazy things with these helicopters that Marines I've talked to said, well, that didn't happen. Well, it did. You know, I mean, they didn't go by the book. They kind of did their own thing. And I heard that they would go across the North, Vietnamese line with a helicopter. They'd hook a bicycle with the front of their helicopters and steal them. I mean, they did crazy things, these guys. And so we tried to get that within the confines of a certain sense of film reality, you know. But, you know, having been in the service myself, I remembered the special service officers and the way they related and talked to one another and so forth. And, I didn't want to, compromise or do anything to belittle or caricature these guys. I mean, it was enough of a thing that they were right on the edge, anyway. I didn't want to make it anything a caricature. And we had to loop the lines. You loop the lines somewhat afterwards, and we had to do it because the noise of those helicopters was so intense. We had to recreate the sound by looping the lines. We did that twice, I think, But Coppola, he allows you to come up with stuff, and it was great to work with Coppola. He's one of the all-time greats, Godfather 1, Godfather 2, Apocalypse, and a few others. He's a great director, that guy.
No question about it. And, of course, you were working with Marlon Brando. What was that like? I think you've been in at least three movies with Marlon Brando.
We used to go to Cramo's drugstore in New York, me, Gene Hackman, and Dustin Hoffman. And we'd once a week and talk, and for like 25 minutes to half an hour. If we mentioned Brando's name once, we mentioned it 50 times. So he was kind of like our hero, our godfather. He was really a very unique guy. So, we kind of looked up to him and so forth and so on. I had no direct scenes with him, although they say he came down in the jungles of the Philippines to do that, driving a baby blue Mercedes. He always had his own lifestyle aside from the business itself, So many stories came out of that.
Well, you've had an unbelievable career. Before we move any further, as you mentioned your military service, certainly we thank you for all the entertainment you've provided people listening, but thank you for your service in the United States military as well.
Oh, yeah, well, my dad has served in me. He went to the Naval Academy when he was 16 years old off a farm from Virginia, my dad. So, we've always, not that I'd ever wanted to be in the military myself. As a matter of fact, as a military family, they were the ones that kind of pushed me into acting because I wasn't doing too well in school. So they said, well, why don't you try that? And kind of things, everything reversed itself in my favor.
They must have known. They must have had a feeling about it, because that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. Why did you choose acting as your profession?
Well, they kind of pushed me as an expedient thing. It was the end of the Korean War, and to get through school, I went to a small college in southern Illinois. The Pomeran family had a summer theater in Bellport, Long Island, and so I went and did quite a few summers stock, a lot of plays, and so did a lot of theater before I got into film or television, So, but it's all related. They're all connected, whatever the mediums are.
And kind of start going back to Apocalypse Now, certainly Martin Sheen was in that, but many people may not know right now you have a new project, I don't know when it comes out, called The 12 Mighty Orphans,
yeah.
And Martin Sheen's in that as well, plus other killer actors.
Yeah, I had seen him years to give a big hug, because, when we did Apocalypse, he had a heart attack.
I heard.
And but he lived, and but I think Coppola got a lot of outtakes from other movies that he'd done. In case he died, you could still salvage his performance, But the 12 Mighty Orphans was a wonderful project. I don't have much to do. I said, I'll come down and be in it, but don't give me a script. Let me do a little bit of an improvisation, which we did. It's not a big part at all. And I'm about to go up and do another part, not a big part, but a nice movie with Adam Sandler up in Philadelphia, a movie about basketball. So I'm kind of getting ready to do that and looking forward to that, to work with him. He's such a wonderfully unique guy, Adam Sandler.
That should be exciting. Give us an idea when you approach, and as I said, every role, there's something there. And when you said earlier about you bring parts of yourself into the role. In The Judge, you're tough. When you were the father of Sling Blade, you were stubborn and tough. You have a twinkle in your eye. You're bringing all these emotions to it, and that's what makes it, to me at least, so exciting to see you work. The new project you're working with, how do you prepare, or any of these projects, how do you prepare to...
You just follow the script and, and just follow the logic of the script. That's the way I always feel about it, and see where it takes you, see where it takes you, without trying to go to a result. You get the result by just letting it come from you in a very evolutionary way, rather than going for it, moment to moment, talk and listen and talk. That's the end and the beginning of it all, beginning and the end of it all. You're just talking and listening, like we're doing now. Like people say, oh, well, you're just doing this, playing yourself. Well, try it. It's not that easy necessarily to be that relaxed. It's like my old friend who died recently, Wilford Brimley, who was a wonderful actor, said, when I say action, you better come up with something. And I say you better come up with something by not trying to come up with something, necessarily. Kind of let it evolve from the simple process of you talk, I listen, and vice versa.
Like you're saying, the relaxed. When you look at a script, though, I'm guessing it's black and white, paper with words on it. And as you read that, Mr. Duvall, what does the character? Do you start thinking how to be that character? How does that work?
No, you don't think about becoming. You let it come from you. It's got to come from you, And like I said, you can't become something without. You let it come from yourself. It's got to come from yourself.
We're talking with the one and only Robert Duvall, one of my favorite actors. Last night I was watching 7 Days in Utopia. I've seen that before. I watched it again, and first of all, that movie has just great life lessons anyway. But I was thinking, as you're tremendous in that, and of course I had the scenes of you riding horses in other movies as well. So riding horses has been a part of your life these many years, I guess. But as I thought about the young actors and actresses that were in that show with you, thinking that, wow, I'm with Robert Duvall, one of the legends, just like me talking to you, just on a phone conversation for a radio show. Were you ever intimidated along the way early on, maybe when you were working with people that were more famous than you at the time, or how does that work?
Intimidated, but looking forward to the pleasure of doing that. You know what I'm saying? Brando or Olivier or different people, and also people younger than myself. There's some fine young actors, you know. You look forward to that, yeah. And when I worked with Richard Harris, that was terrific. He's such a great storyteller, the funny stuff that he would tell. You treat each thing a little different, you know, a little different. When I did the Preacher Project that we brought, or was it Miranda Richardson over from England, and Horton Foote, who also gave me wonderful help when I was coming up, said, "Now, where did you get that non-actress?" I said, "No, she's a professional actress from London, England, playing a Texan." He thought maybe she was a Texan I picked up somewhere. Because when I direct, sometimes I like to use non-actors or first-time actors. You know, one of my favorite films that I directed, a lot of people don't know, it was where I used a young gypsy boy, True Gypsies, and only one professional actor. It worked out pretty good, you know. Every time I see Martin Scorsese, who I don't know well at all, he mentions that movie that I directed called Angelo, My Love. With a true little gypsy boy. He was so good, I can't tell you how truthful he was, that kid.
What the camera captures and how we as watchers and listeners relate to it.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. It's each one is different. Each one is different, and you try, like Scott Cooper, my friend, the director, says, just do it. We'll capture it, whatever it is. Don't go for the result. Just go for the reality of talking and listening, and a camera will pick that up. You know, the camera will pick that up.
That's great advice for any profession.
Yeah. And Gene Hackman, he was a terrific friend and a wonderful actor. He's retired now in Santa Fe somewhere down there. Talked to him in years and years. But we used to paddle around in New York, he and I, and then Dustin Hoffman, who came in later from California to live in New York. That's a strange connection because Adam Sandler, we talked on the phone the other day, he's now a very good friend of Dustin. I was a friend of Dustin way back, you know. And we've lost a little bit of contact, and I still keep in touch with a few actors, not a lot. James Caan is a wonderful actor. We keep in touch, he and I. He's such a funny, Brando loved him because he was so funny, Jimmy Caan, just a funny guy.
You could see that, yeah.
So it's a big community, but there's connections all over the place with each other. I hadn't seen Marty Sheen in years. Gave each other a big hug, and it's nice to see him again. Yeah.
You mentioned Gene Hackman, and there's a lot of things about Gene Hackman that are great. And like I said about you, he too has that twinkle in his eye, and it shines forth on the screen or TV wherever you're watching him. And the other night I watched The Judge, and there's Billy Bob Thornton. Now, Danny, our friend, says that you're kind of buddies with Billy Bob. Tell us a little bit about that.
I always said Billy Bob Thornton puts Tennessee Williams in the back seat. Billy Bob called him the Hillbilly Orson Welles. This guy is so talented. He and his writing partner initially years ago drove all the way from Arkansas to New York to start their lives and their career. They stayed in New York 8 hours and turned around and drove away and never went back. Wow. And Billy Bob's one of a kind. When Nikita Mikhailkov was over years and years ago, about 25 years ago, I known him when I met him when I played Stalin, and they accepted what I did. You know, they said that I did okay. And I brought Billy. I said, here's Billy Bob Thornton from Malvern, Arkansas, and I want you to meet this great director from from Moscow. So the two met. We had a long conversation and lunch. It was just terrific. But Billy Bob, he's, without being cliche, he's a real thing. He's very bright, extremely bright, and so talented, natural actor. And I said, Billy, how come you haven't made any movies anymore? He said, I haven't made it because nobody sees them. But I guess he'll get back to directing. He's a terrific director and, plus a wonderful actor. He's into a little bit of music now, but he's one of a kind, I tell you, very much so.
He really is great. And as far as music goes, you do a little singing as well. Like the other night, again, every night it's a Robert Duvall night for me lately. I watched A Night in Old Mexico, and as the movie ends, you're singing the, I forget, the Mexicali Rose?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know all the words, but yeah. We figured we'd sing a song driving along in a car, and that's the song I came up with, Had a nice Spanish director from Spain that directed that, and he said, oh, that's fine, so sing a song, and, what you do driving along, It was a nice film to do in Southie. I like working in Texas a lot down there. That's over there in Brownsville.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, other than acting, writer, producer, director, what's your second favorite, assuming that acting may be your first favorite thing to do?
Oh, I don't know. I like to hang out with my wife and with our two dogs and just take it easy, Exercise some and drive around, visit with people, hold some court, for sure, yeah. And, I've had hobbies. You have hobbies, and more hobbies to fill in, And you could tennis at one time, horseback riding at another time. We did a movie on the tango. I like to do the club tango dancing, and like they do the club tango dancing in Argentina, the way they do the two-step in the clubs in Texas. It's a club dance other than just an exhibition dance. So I like the music of that, and different kinds of. My brothers were both professional singers. One was a leading tenor for the Gridiron, for the president every year, and my other brother sang opera out in Wisconsin, and he had gone to Europe on a scholarship. But I just and that thing that Ken Burns did recently was so brilliant. That thing on country music,
Right.
Did you see that?
I did see it. Yeah, it was tremendous.
Oh my God, it's terrific. And I hear there's a new documentary out. Just came out on Johnny Cash, and my wife looked it up, said that I'm in it, so I'm looking forward to see what that was. Because when I did Tender Mercies, Horton Foote's wonderful script, I got to know Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, some of these guys, they accepted what we did in the movie, which was nice. You meet certain people that you rub elbows with to get to at least, try to gain a little expertise from them.
That's right. We learn from everybody. And for those that don't know, you met your wife on the set as you were filming Assassination Tango. No, I knew her before. Oh, okay.
Oh, I knew her before. In fact, there was another girl who was going to play the part, and she said, the girl was kind of haughty, if you think she's going to play it, do it. So my wife studied for 1 year, dancing. We did acting, improvisation, wherever we'd go, and she stole the show. Acting student stopped her on the street and said, my acting teacher said, if you want to see pure acting, go see what Luciana did in that movie. She was just terrific,
Yeah, that's awesome.
So she's very supportive of what I do and extremely helpful, She's younger than I am, but like Wilford Brimley says, listen, my friend, the worst thing in the world for an old man is an old woman.
Oh, no. Well, so these days you're having a great time. You're still working. Give us an idea. Why do you want to work?
Not a lot. Well, there was a wonderful film in Texas, but all the producers screwed it up and never could get the money. And it was written by two writers in Texas about a little girl during the post-Civil War and her brother, and her mother's killed by a mountain lion. So she's looking to spend her younger years and her life to find and kill that mountain lion. It's a terrific script, but they can't get the money. So now, then, while we're trying to do that, Ed Harris calls me with a terrific novel called The Plowman that we had tried to get the rights to, but he had got it. And then a year or so later, he got it. He called 3 years later. He called and said he wanted me to do it. So, but I don't know if they can get the money for that. It's a terrific part, a lead. You know, I'm not looking to play leads, but if the right thing does come along, I just will try to get the energy and, you know, get as my father, as a military man, said, a nap during the day is an equal strain on all parts. So I like me, when I get off the phone with you, I'll probably catch a few winks.
Nothing wrong with a little nap. You mentioned you have 2 dogs. Tell us about the dogs.
Oh, the dogs are great. They're Blue and Virginia, they're blue heelers. They're Australian dogs, which, you know, they're a mix. They get that breed. I think some Dalmatian, some shepherd dog, but half of them are dingo, which is like a coyote.
Right.
And they're terrific. They love me, but they worship Luciana. She can't move around without them, but they're great. They're out of the same litter, which you're not supposed to do, but they do pretty good there. They do pretty good. We call them our savages. They're great.
Well,
it's great to have pets.
It really is. In fact, as we talk, I have 2 pets that are already on their nap right now. And as we all get older every day, you've had an active career. But is there anything that you're doing from a success standpoint in terms of staying in shape to be able to enjoy your career and all these things?
Well, you know, I do that Pilates twice a week with a woman over the you know, the internet thing, and then I swim 2, 3, 4 times a week. You know, I just try to get rest and you know, and enjoy life. You know, and enjoy life and be grateful and have gratitude for what I've been able to do and what a few things that are left. You know.
Indeed.
So.
We're talking with the one and only Robert Duvall, one of my favorite actors.
Terrific. They love me, but they worship Luciana. She can't move around without them, but they're great. They're out of the same litter, which you're not supposed to do, but they do pretty good there. They do pretty good. We call them our savages.
Wow.
We call them our savages. Yeah, they're great. Well, it's great to have pets.
It really is. In fact, as we talk, I have 2 pets that are already on their nap right now. And as far as what you have done, you talk about we're keeping energy as we all get older every day. You've had an active career, but is there anything that you're doing from a success standpoint in terms of staying in shape to be able to enjoy your career and all these things?
Well, you know, I do that Pilates twice a week with a woman over the you know, the internet thing, and then I swim 2, 3, 4 times a week, and you know, I just try to get rest and you know, and enjoy life. You know, and enjoy life and be grateful and have gratitude for what I've been able to do and what a few things that are left. You know. Indeed. So.
We're talking with the one and only Robert Duvall, one of my favorite actors. Robert, when you first started in those early years, now you live on the East Coast, I understand, I think in Virginia, but when you first started, I guess when people start, you have to kind of be where the action is. Did you go to Hollywood? Did you start in California? Or how did you
I started in New York, and you do an off-Broadway play, but the unions afford you, if you give notice, to be able to go get out with a few days' notice and do TV and then come back in. You can't do that with a Broadway play. But with the off-Broadway, you could do that. So I'd go out to California and go back to New York and do some TV, come back, you know, back and forth. And then I did off-Broadway plays in New York, too, and Summer Theater. Broadway, and one of my favorite parts ever was, it's not recorded, was American Buffalo, David Mamet's play on Broadway. That my dear friend Ulu Brospard, the director, he directed that. It was a big success in New York. That was one of my favorite performances. I don't read reviews usually, good or bad, you know, because somebody's always got something good to say. Maybe they're also bad to say. But I guess they say the best reviews I've got were American Buffalo on Broadway and Lonesome Dove.
So that will be the end of part 1 with our interview with Robert Duvall. You will hear next week part 2. You'll hear about Lonesome Dove and some other great things that Mr. Duvall is doing and has done. So that will be next week on part 2. And of course, our shows are at stewart.com/Houston. You can find the archive for this show over there and next week's show as well at stewart.com/Houston. But don't go anywhere because the show's not over yet. We have much more for you on Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. We have several other guests on the show, so please stay with us, and Real Estate Matters will continue right after this.
In today's litigious society, it is imperative to have the proper insurance to offset the many risks facing your business, especially if you're a real estate broker. Your errors and omissions and cyber liability insurance can help limit the threat of these risks if you know what to look for. Not sure if your insurance addresses the risks facing your business? Contact Stewart Insurance to be confident your brokerage can withstand these risks. Stewart Insurance, 866-798-2827. StewartInsurance.com. That's StewartInsurance.com or call 866-798-2827. If you're a real estate professional, then listen closely. Cyber criminals are targeting our industry. They are impersonating real estate professionals, homebuyers, sellers, and title agents. Their goal is to gain access to your inboxes, computers, and clients so they can steal information and funds. Does your business insurance offset these risks? Not sure? Contact Stewart Insurance to determine if your business is properly insured. Visit StewartInsurance.com or call 866-798-2827. Visit StewartInsurance.com or call 866-798-2827.
Let's talk to Gretchen Barker. She is the owner of Falcon Management right here in Houston, Texas. Gretchen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Well, it's awesome to talk with you. In fact, property management is a great topic to talk about. We don't get to speak about it enough on this show. So let's tell people about Falcon Management and what you do.
When I have been referred to or have a client that is thinking about property management, I have them, the agent gives them my phone number, our phone number, and I talk to them, and only I talk to them. If they're international people leaving the country, they have a special spot because that's a very different thing. And I tell them right off the bat what our fees are. And like in any real estate transaction, be it as an agent or as a manager, the rules are the same. Each office has their own rules for fees and what they offer, as does any real estate company.
And that's a good point. Certainly you're helping people here in Houston, but it sounds like there's an international component to your business as well.
That's correct. I was an international person, and I structured the company to assist people who are, especially the first time, living out of the country and so far away from their house, and turning it over to somebody that they've generally spoken to on the phone. But I've been one, and I know the pitfalls to being one. Keeping a happy tenant and a happy landlord is no easy job. They both come from different points of view. But when they call me, the first thing I tell them is our fees, which are, in our case, are flat fees. They're not every time I pick up a phone and I charge somebody something, or a percentage of anything. It's a flat rate for vacancy, and then when they get a tenant, it changes price to whatever the rent is. And we have a minimum and a maximum, whether a property is occupied or not occupied. First of all, we do arrange for the credit checks in the background. That's initial. On their application, that's the first thing that's run. We verify their employment and any rental history, which in our case is pretty slim because most of our people, our tenants, are from out of the country as well and don't have credit. So we require a letter from their employer that they have been hired to come to the U.S. And even if they've been here, they still haven't established credit enough to warrant that as being. So we need to have a letter from their employer. And if they have leased for some length of time here, a letter from their landlord.
So it sounds like, especially when we're talking internationally,
Right.
As far as helping people that own properties from far away, there's some extra things that you're doing to help those people, right?
That's correct. First of all, we do not even have an answering service. We are 24/7, 7 days a week, 52 weeks out of the year. Human voices. Have a very good office manager. They'll be your lifeline, because either if they're licensed, that's fine. But I handle mainly the contracts themselves. I do request two things from agents. Our information has to be in your listing from the beginning if you know ahead of time that that's what they want. There's a certain amount of time that is needed to prepare a house per the law and per the property code that we need to have in order to arrange all that prior to the move-in. I do meet every one of my tenants at the house, usually the day before their move-in, and do a general walkthrough to introduce them to things that the owner has told me about a house. And, every house is different. I try to get as much feel for the house, how to work the alarm, how to work the sprinkler system, to reach us, and to give them enough time in their inventory condition form to make a decent move-in. I get contracts that say 5 days. Well, somebody can't move into a house and test everything in the house and give a coherent inventory report in 5 days. Otherwise, we get a call every day for at least a month with something else they found. So I recommend give the tenant 14 days to live in the house and find out. I know the dishwasher runs, but I don't know whether it washes dishes. I just know it runs. And the same way with the disposal. Those things, you have to have time to really live in a house for a couple of weeks to find the little things, not the big things that are obvious. It's the little things that nobody knows about.
Gretchen, give us an idea how many people, as far as the real estate market, people that are overseas that are coming to Houston. Are we seeing, is that increased this year or has it slowed down?
Well, it slowed down several years ago, but we're seeing it starting to pick up because people don't know when they wake up whether their company is going to transfer them or not. You have to deal with all these entities that are controlling this because the owner doesn't know whether his company is sending him back to Houston, away from Houston, to another city. They don't know either, so they can't tell us. You have to be extremely flexible and deal with what everyday occurrence happens, different in every respect. And I know it happened to me, so I know how it can happen overnight. And we just have to go with the flow, do what you have to do to meet everybody's needs. And that's what we try to do. We've run into a situation several years ago, and it would never been done. And we figured, well, if there's a need for it, we'll figure out how we can handle their particular personal situation. And we did, and it's become a very big thing, which is some owners don't want anybody living in their house. They want to leave their furniture and have somebody come and check it every week, maybe even pay their utility bills to come to us. I have had people I've got one gentleman, I've done his house in Westview for 7 years. He's been gone, and he's back and forth, but he's gone, and I run his house. They get a statement every month from my accounting department with everything that's been received as income and everything that is spent that we have paid for them in their stead. So with tax time, everything's there. Our owners are given 1099s on all their income, and what we have paid that they can take to their accountant as what is deductible and what isn't.
And Gretchen, as far as right here in Houston, you're talking about Westview, so we want to make sure people know that you're also managing properties right here in Houston. So let's talk a little bit more about that should someone need your help, and also anything else you want them to know before we close out the segment. We have about 2 minutes left. We want to remind people that right here in Houston, you're managing properties here.
Right.
For people that live in Houston. So let's tell people a little bit about that, and then also anything else before we conclude the segment and how they can reach you.
Okay. We manage most of the area of Houston. It's gotten so large now, but we are from the Katy to the Sugar Land. We even have a couple down in Brazoria County, West University, inside the loop, outside the loop. We don't just concentrate on one area. The Woodlands has gotten a little bit out. We used to have a lot in the Woodlands, but that's gotten so difficult that we've had to kind of back off of that. A lot of the third-party companies call us for something that is not feasible or in the best interest of the owner to have us, and I tell them that, but some of them want to go with us anyways. You can contact my office at 713-932-8605. We are on Facebook, and if you want to be a Facebook friend, we'd be happy to. And you can kind of keep up with what properties I have listed, what I have listed from other companies in the city that don't have property managing at that same number, and get more detail of what your needs are. That's what I need to know. What do you need, and can I fulfill it?
And no doubt, as you said, each situation is different. Each home is different. Sometimes people are coming from overseas to rent properties, or they're right here, right?
Absolutely. Mainly on somebody's going to live here, I tell them, they say, well, could I do that? And I say, yes, you can. You can do that. You can be your own manager. And if that is in your mind to do, try it. See if it works for you. If it doesn't, you can call me back.
Well, it is a big job with a lot of details. I vote in favor of the property manager. People can call you, Gretchen Barker, Falcon Management, at 713-932-8605. That's 713-932-8605. Gretchen, thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I love talking about my business because I've learned so much.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Bill. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
In today's litigious society, it is imperative to have the proper insurance to offset the many risks facing your business, especially if you're a real estate broker. Your errors and omissions and cyber liability insurance can help limit the threat of these risks if you know what to look for. Not sure if your insurance addresses the risks facing your business? Contact Stewart Insurance to be confident your brokerage can withstand these risks. Stewart Insurance, 866-798-2827. StewartInsurance.com. That's StewartInsurance.com, or call 866-798-2827.
Real Estate Matters would not be possible without our partner, Stewart Insurance. With a focus in real estate and a special focus on real estate brokers, Stewart Insurance creates insurance plans to address the risks facing our industry today. They invest a significant amount of time helping real estate broker owners offset and manage their risks. And today, once again, here he is with Stewart Insurance, John Bramlett.
Howdy, Bill. How are you today?
Here we are. It's always great to have that insurance oasis where we get to talk about insurance and remind people the importance of how we're to be properly insured, and that's what you and the team are helping people do every day.
We do, and that's what we're passionate about. But I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball
Yes.
today, Bill. We talk a lot about, from time to time on the show, about mitigating risk or minimizing your risk, and we talk a lot about how we can utilize some of these tools for a competitive advantage, or at least to make sure that we remain competitive. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about a business continuity plan. And the reason that I wanted to cover that is, if you think about all that's been going on recently, between the pandemic and the hurricanes, in the Gulf and in the Atlantic, and the wildfires in the Northwest, it's important to have a business continuity plan. And we have one at Stewart Insurance. In fact, we activated it because of Hurricane Laura. So I thought it would be worthwhile for our listeners today to talk a little bit about that.
Indeed, that's a terrific subject, and every business needs that continuity plan.
Absolutely. So what it really does is it functions as a way to quickly resume, or maintain your business in the event of a disruption, whether it be fire or storm or cyber attack. So it's a plan in place that allows you to either maintain your business by doing some things ahead of time, or as a response to an incident, or getting your business back up to speed quickly. And I think it's important to realize that it's not just for natural disasters, but it all could be things like a cyber attack. And building a business continuity plan provides, I believe, a competitive advantage because your firm, your team now has the ability to continue to support your clients or quickly return to being that valued partner.
That's right. And of course, we say be properly insured, also be properly prepared. And this goes right into that category.
Absolutely. It's following the old Boy Scout motto, be prepared. And there's some things that you can do as an organization to begin constructing a business continuity plan. Three things to do initially would be, one, to assess your business processes. So what are the processes you have for the organization? Second, determine the areas where you might be vulnerable. So if there was a natural disaster, if there was a cyber attack, what areas might you be vulnerable? And then determine what would be those potential losses if your business was down for a day or a week or a month. So those would be the first three steps to consider. Would be this, assess your processes, determine areas where you may be vulnerable, and then what would be those losses if you were shut down for a day or a week or a month.
Well, those are three things that people should replay this show and hear that again and write it down. That's so important.
Absolutely. And then, so once you've done those first three steps, you've done the assessment, you've determined the vulnerability and what the potential losses are, then here's how you kind of could go about building that plan. So you would want to identify the scope of the plan. So a company that might have, let's say it's a real estate brokerage firm that had 40 agents, their continuity plan in maybe 3 cities, their continuity plan is going to be different than if you had a brokerage firm that had 2 agents. So that would be important. Identify key business areas. So what are the different businesses areas that you support? Are you strictly a real estate broker? Are you strictly a property manager? Do you do both? So that's important to take a look at. What are identifying some of the critical functions that your firm does, identifying dependencies between the various business areas and functions. So how dependent is your property management firm to your real estate brokers? How dependent are your brokers to what your accounting team does? So those kinds of things. Fifth, determine what the acceptable downtime would be for those critical functions. Are you okay if you're down 24 hours? Are you okay if you're down a week? So know what that is so you can adjust. And then finally, create a plan so that you can maintain those operations or get them back up in place as quickly as possible.
That is always great stuff that you bring forth. And when we think about the being prepared, I like the armed services. One of the branches of the armed services, their motto is Semper Paratus, and that is the Coast Guard, and that means in Latin, always ready, be prepared. So those are important things. And the business owner, small or large, always has so many things to think about, John. So business is always keeping us on our toes, no matter what our profession is.
It really is, and there are, like you said, so many things to think about, and then that's where having an insurance partner like Stewart Insurance can come into play, so we can take some of that burden off of your shoulders and work with you to make sure that you're properly insured, to make sure that you are comfortable with the amount of risk that you're taking on yourself versus the amount of risk that you're placing on the insurance company.
That is super awesome. And John, before we conclude, what else would you like people to know?
Well, if they'd like to know more about Stewart Insurance, if they'd like to determine if they are properly insured or if they would like to become properly insured, whether it be for their homeowners or their business insurance, they can reach us at 866-798-2827. That's 866-798-2827. They can email us at stewartinsurance@stewart.com. That's stewartinsurance@stewart.com, or can visit us on the web at stewartinsurance.com.
And John, if someone's listening outside of the Houston area at the time of broadcast on the internet, perhaps, are you able to help those people?
Absolutely. We can help folks far and wide. So throughout the U.S., we're happy to help you out.
There you go. It's that easy. stewartinsurance.com, and the phone number again is
866-798-2827.
Music to my ears. You've been listening to Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title I'm your host, Bill Knapik, together with John Bramlett, Tom Carpentier, Larry Warren, and all the greats at Stewart Insurance and Stewart Title. Thank you all for listening. Just go to Stewart.com/Houston. That's Stewart.com/Houston to hear any and all shows. Thank you again, Mr. John Bramlett, and we will see y'all next week.
Well, you have to go from yourself. You know, you don't become something else. You find those aspects of your own personality and individuality that fit whatever you're trying to get. So, it's like you got to really know yourself, because you only have one set of emotions, one psyche, one mind, and one temperament. So you just got to know how to exploit that in a legitimate way and use it to your advantage within whatever you're asking yourself to do. You try, like Scott Cooper, my friend, the director, says, just do it, we'll capture it, whatever it is. Don't go for the result. Just go for the reality of talking and listening. And a camera will pick that up. The camera will pick that up.
This is your host, Bill Knapik, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Certainly hope that you enjoyed the show, a tremendous show. And to remind you, next week we will have part 2 of our interview with Robert Duvall. So just tune in Sunday at 5 p.m. after the news to AM 950 KPRC, where you'll hear part 2 of our interview with Robert Duvall, and other guests will be on the show too. Another great show is in store. If you are in the process of a real estate transaction, residential or commercial, whether you're buying or selling, we would be honored to be stewards of your real estate transaction, and we will strive to exceed your expectations at any one of our Stewart Title offices. Simply go to Stewart.com and you'll find an office near you. Stewart.com, or tell your real estate agent that you would like to close at Stewart Title, whether you're buying or selling. And once again, we would be honored to be stewards of your real estate transaction. We've been in business over 127 years, started right in Galveston, Texas, and here we are today serving you, and we're honored to do so. Stewart.com is the website where you can find out all the information about our company. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
In today's litigious society, it is imperative to have the proper insurance to offset the many risks facing your business, especially if you're a real estate broker. Your errors and omissions and cyber liability insurance can help limit the threat of these risks if you know what to look for. Not sure if your insurance addresses the risks facing your business? Contact Stewart Insurance to be confident your brokerage can withstand these risks. Stewart Insurance, 866-798-2827. StewartInsurance.com. That's StewartInsurance.com, or call 866-798-2827. If you're a real estate professional, then listen closely. Cyber criminals are targeting our industry. They are impersonating real estate professionals, homebuyers, sellers, and title agents. Their goal is to gain access to your inboxes, computers, and clients so they can steal information and funds. Does your business insurance offset these risks? Not sure? Contact Stewart Insurance to determine if your business is properly insured. Visit StewartInsurance.com or call 866-798-2827. Visit StewartInsurance.com or call 866-798-2827.
We used to go to Cromwell's drugstore in New York, me, Gene Hackman, and Dustin Hoffman, and we'd meet once a week and talk for like 25 minutes to half an hour. If we mentioned Brando's name once, we mentioned it 50 times. He was kind of like our hero, our godfather. He was really a very unique guy. So, we kind of looked up to him and so forth and so on.
Move over, Netflix, Amazon Prime. You just heard a clip from my interview with Robert Duvall. Why would we have a major motion picture and TV icon on Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title? Because we can. And because we want to bring you a top show every week and exceed your expectations, just like when you close your real estate transactions at Stewart Title or buy insurance from Stewart Insurance. Most of the time we have real estate professionals on this show, and sometimes we have an author or someone special that'll bring some new information or add some extra entertainment value to the show. This week is one of those times. Our featured guest is actor, director, writer, producer Robert Duvall. Mr. Duvall's career began in the 1960s and is still going strong. He's been in shows Movies like Godfather 1 and 2, Sling Blade, Apocalypse Now, Lonesome Dove, Days of Thunder, The Natural, To Kill a Mockingbird, and so many more. He's been in productions with Marlon Brando, John Wayne, Tom Cruise, Kevin Costner, Billy Bob Thornton, and so many more. Mr. Duvall spent an hour talking with me, and I divided the interview into part 1 and part 2. You can hear part 1 this Sunday on AM 950 KPRC, September 20th at 5 p.m. right after the news. That's 950 KPRC radio here in Houston. After the news at 5 o'clock, you'll hear part 1 of my interview with Robert Duvall, and I have some other guests on the show that are also tremendous. If you want to hear the show and see the show before the broadcast on Sunday, I will have it posted on my YouTube channel this Friday. My YouTube channel is Bill Knapik Radio Shows. That will be this Friday, almost any time during the day and thereafter on my YouTube channel. You will hear Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title and my special interview with Robert Duvall. That's part 1. Sounds to me like an offer you can't refuse.